Welcome
Hello.
to
Hello.
another episode of the Love Change podcast.
Here we are again.
The lovely boss Kay Amor.
Lady boss.
Today's topic, my favorite, sadness.
You have many favorites.
I only have favorites. On
Pretty
the
good
real
in
though,
choosing those.
today is the 8th-year anniversary of my accident. Around sunset today, 8 years ago, I broke my neck and drowned in the ocean in south of France. Shout out to the people who dragged me out. Mobin, sticking by me.
Great man, thank you.
And yeah, generally a sad week for me upwards towards the anniversary. And then YK had a lovely topic in mind, sadness. You had a couple of questions for me around the topic?
Yes. I have. What was your biggest period of sadness and what did you learn from that? How do you deal with sadness in general?
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with other sadness?
Mm-hmm.
And solitude or company
Okay.
when you're sad.
For you to consider, what people do you allow into your space when you're sad? What is the best way somebody can show up for you when you're sad? How do you react to somebody else being sad?
Good lineup.
These are the questions. If you're tuning in live, good for you. If you're wondering
Welcome.
how you can check out this podcast, we're available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the places where you listen and watch podcasts.
We are open for topics.
Please do like, share,
Suggestions.
comment, subscribe.
Yes, please.
Tell your mom, tell your aunt, tell all your family.
Because that's the way how we can reach more people.
Yes. Our only promise to you is that we do not know what questions we're going to answer. We hear the questions. We're honest towards each other. We get to know each other better and learn a little bit more about loving change. You want to kick off?
Yes, please. What was your biggest period of sadness and what did you learn from that, my dear?
I guess the biggest period of sadness was the first 33 years of my life. I'm almost 34 now. So it's been a great journey.
A bit more honesty, please.
No, I think I've had some happy moments in between.
It feels like...
The saddest period of my life is a weird one.
Tell me.
I've had a little tango with depression once in a while. A lot of times also related to fatigue, so making myself very, very tired and like exhausted to the point that your body just gives up. And then you have to sit with that. That's sad. I think the first year after my accident, I was just high on surviving, not dying. And then I think when I broke up with my ex, had her move out of the house, went back to rehab to get a wheelchair, and finished school. I fell into a little bit of a vacuum.
Studies.
I was pretty like after my studies, I graduated. I was just super depressed. I think I was like more than sad. I think I was just depressed. Like
I had that question issue on the list as well. Like, where do you draw the line, basically?
I think I draw the line at not drinking water until you feel like you're starving, not eating food for a couple of days, and not seeing people, not picking up the phone. Remember my sister dragged me out of bed and there was like this big oil stain in the shape of my body on the sheets just because I've been in the bed for so long. So I think why that was I think I felt like I was sad because I woke up next to a wheelchair every day. And I tried really hard for a very long time to leave the wheelchair behind, and now I didn't leave it behind. So I had to accept my failure in that sense. I felt like I failed.
Really?
Yeah, I was also in a lot of pain physically, and I think that was a big depression. I think that was the biggest depressive episode of my life. And I think when I was writing the book about 2 3 years ago in Curacao, I had to go and review all the moments
Revisit, basically.
to write,
Yeah.
and that was pretty. Yeah, it was intense. It was
Really
sad.
brings you back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also had to sit in those emotions
Mm-hmm.
to be able to write from them,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I skipped them when they were occurring. So that was intense.
Suppressed.
Yeah, and that was not just that was like basically my whole life. I revisited my whole life and all the moments that were abnormal or just intense and painful or hurtful or feeling abandoned, alone, outsider, neglected. So yeah, I think that is my answer to your
What
question.
did you learn from that?
Definitely felt lighter to experience the sadness. Also felt good to write about it. That's the book experience. The the depression. Don't know if the depression taught me anything besides like how important it is to just eat like now when I feel like I'm it's turning into autumn and winter and it messes with me and my body's hurting more. It's just more testing my spirit more and more, and then usually I lose my appetite. And then I know if I stop eating and just sleep, I'm gonna slide down pretty easily. And then if I do force myself to just go sit somewhere, order a coffee, then I can prevent it. I've learned how to
Good to know.
prevent myself from slipping down. Because then instead of a depressed period, it just is a painful period. And otherwise, it can drag out into weeks and months. Well, it can also just be a couple of tough days.
Yeah, it's probably also the deeper you get into it,
Longer the way
the
back.
more steps is there to get out again.
Yeah, I think physically, definitely, if you don't move a lot. I already have to sit a lot, so
That doesn't do you good when you don't move.
no, it just adds to the stagnations.
Exactly. Yeah, and especially a cold season, it's already predestined to
Yeah.
add to that.
Yeah, so I think from also what I learned from the depression is to do meet up with friends, do allow social interactions because I just don't feel like I'm a good company. So I retract myself from social things, friends, family. Then I isolate myself even more. Then it also doesn't add much to the getting out of it. No. Or even preventing it. Like I can feel super depressed, and if I just force myself to go see somebody, then at least for that amount that I'm with people, I feel different. And then maybe when it's gone, I feel bad again. But it's if I don't take those moments, then yeah, I'm just gonna feel bad all the time.
Yeah, I think it was hard for me to understand that friends, like real friends, also appreciate when you're not in in a good mood.
Yeah.
That was really almost
Yeah,
unbelievable
they
for me to
sit with you.
understand. But if you
Yeah.
have people that are really the real people, then be like, okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah, or
So,
you don't even
well, tell me about it.
have to talk about it. You can
Yeah.
just sit with each other and just like, yeah, it's a blue day today. That's what it is. We don't have to
Yeah.
sacrifice too many words about
Yeah.
it. You can just be together in the blue as well.
Yeah. Good one. Thanks
So,
for the honesty.
sure thing. What people do you allow into your space when you're sad?
Yeah. Very few, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. Last year when I strained my ankle, when I fell off my bike, it was towards the end of the year, and then I got really stuck in my own house on the third floor and really not able to move, and basically nothing was broken. So the doctor was just, yeah, you just have to rest. And that ended up to be, I think, at least 6 weeks. And I really got into one of the lowest lows that I had so far. Because if I cannot move, that is really hard. I literally couldn't leave the house because to like get off the third floor wouldn't work. My
To
little
go on your
brother,
butt.
huh? Yeah, but then you have to go to the supermarket as well.
Yeah.
So
No.
it's like usually the supermarket was 3 minutes away, but 3 minutes in
No.
that condition just didn't work. And yeah, they yeah. Nevertheless, it was a time when my little brother came along with his girlfriend for a visit. They wanted to see me, and it was really cute. And he's still, when I talk to him, he's now and then is saying that he never have seen me that bad.
Yeah.
Because I was really like, yeah, I'm sorry, people. It just do you, and I'm just gonna stay on the couch. So that made me really realize how few people I would only allow, and it lifted me up. Maybe it didn't feel like that for them, but it lifted me up. But yeah, it. I really had the impression that people would not appreciate it because then I'm not fun to be around, which is not true. That example, that period really showed me that real people also understand that.
So these are your this man you call your little brother.
Yeah.
Who else, or what kind of people do you allow in your
Like the
sadness?
closest circle.
The closest.
Yeah, I think after the burnout, I really learned to say, if people ask me how you doing, to not say I'm great or I'm good, but to be like, nah, not so great. I have one close friend, Raphael, that I saw on the weekend, and we kind of both went through a pretty depressive period of our lives, drinking a lot and going out, and it kind of like bonded us together. But also, that showed us that a friendship can grow even in those times. So yeah, some people really you meet in your lowest low. He at this time was also at his pretty low, and it's where we started seeing each other and really, yeah, kind of supporting each other. So yeah, but the amount is very few. The number is very few.
No.
Yeah. How do you deal with sadness?
Not so great, I would say. I don't deal with sadness too great. I think it's been a recent development that I allow myself to be sad. I think before I would just focus on work or do heavy exercise or drink, get high. I don't know. And then I would postpone the sadness into a depression. I would say that was my style.
That's a very great approach.
Yeah, it's like,
Just in the wrong direction.
and just recently I've been more able to, yeah, be sad.
Just stay in it.
Think to myself, I am sad. I think in the past I would have a big delay on this emotion. I would get the sadness like 6 months later or be.
I found that pretty interesting when you said it once. Would you explain it a bit further?
Yeah, I think if you don't allow the emotion that is connected to a moment, uh, the emotion just waits until you allow it. And for me, I think I would only allow it when I would feel safe enough. Like I understand it from myself, all the coping mechanisms I had to deal with sadness and deal with hurt and deal with pain to reach at a point like you don't care about that you're bleeding when you're still your life is in danger.
Yeah.
And then when you feel safe enough, you will tend to your wounds.
Yeah. That's a good
And that's a
comparison.
weird thing to say about the emotional realm, but I think for me, definitely, I pushed myself to a certain point that I was able to turn back and feel all the things I needed to feel, and now be at a place that I'm like, okay, this instance happened and that made me sad today,
Hmm.
you know? Yeah, I don't remember the question. What was it? How do you
How do you
do?
deal with sadness?
Yeah, I think definitely a big shift. And for the rest, music is a good one for me. I think one of my averting techniques still is just like, what's it called? Binge watching stuff.
Couldn't
When
tell.
I, when I don't want to feel sad, I just watch stuff and then just like zap your brain, kind of. Because I never really watch stuff. Usually, everyday life, I'm like more in the productive mode,
Mhm.
just doing, meeting people, seeing stuff.
You're also
And
listening more educational things.
mostly learning. Yeah,
Yeah,
mostly learning. Yeah.
not like just passively watching.
Mm, yeah, of course, I'm not taking notes, but it's not
No, but
entertainment. It's more
exactly.
information.
Yeah.
And then I definitely turn to entertainment. Yeah, those are my averting techniques. And then I've also had to learn the hard way to, like, for instance, when I'm sad and I want to, I don't know, reach out to my mom to tell her I'm sad, I keep making the mistake that she's not the best person for me to tell that I'm sad,
Mm-hmm.
because she just freaks out and starts throwing solutions at me or reasons not to be sad.
Mm-hmm.
And that even fucks me up more.
Mm-hmm.
So I just haven't been able to really do it yet, to be like, oh, these are my people that I can show up with my sadness without feeling bad about it,
Mm-hmm.
and just do it also. So it's a work in progress how I deal with sadness.
Have you told your mom?
I told her, yeah, yesterday, and then I also sent her a message afterwards, like, "Hey, you did it again. You didn't allow me to talk. You just started throwing solutions and then really making a short conversation."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but that's how she deals with it. I have
Mm-hmm.
to figure out for myself how to deal with it better,
Yeah.
and also maybe be proud of myself or congratulate myself when I do it. So if I'm able to, like, hey, that's my go-to person for when I'm not doing great. Like, I know there are people that when I feel sad, if I go and see them, I'm like, okay, what is there to be sad about? You could have been off worse. But I want to stay away from that, because that's also not really allowing myself to be sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a kick in the butt.
Yeah, it's more like having someone who just keeps the space open, no?
Yeah, basically.
To just like let it linger. If
Yeah, I
that helps.
definitely have those people who have been through a lot of tough periods with me as well.
Mm.
Um, but to actively reach out to them when I feel like I would never, or I have never, or I hope I will, just be like, hey, call somebody. Listen, man, I'm really sad. I need to see somebody right now.
Mm.
Haven't done that. I think that's my would be a big moment for me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I would call somebody and be just like jolly, be like, hey, what's up? Want to grab a drink? Oh, you can't. Too bad. Or oh, you can. How nice. And then just like act like nothing's up. Just do it undercover, covertly, but not.
Would you tell them that, or also you wouldn't?
Nah, nah. I think I would definitely afterwards, not in the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Just telling them, yeah, I was going through a rough patch, or not even mention it. I wouldn't stick to it too much.
Hmm. Interesting one. A
Yeah,
lot to learn.
Yeah, you're getting good insights.
Yeah, I do.
So, what is the best reaction somebody can have when you are sad?
Yeah. I think it brought me back to my childhood when I was thinking about the question.
Okay.
If I would be sad, I think my grandpa always had the best thing to do. He would either rub my chest
Mm-hmm.
or kiss my forehead
Wow.
or rub my head.
Hold
And
you.
yeah, no words needed.
Mm.
But yeah, see?
Shout out to Grandpa.
Definitely.
Kid is crying over here.
Yeah, I
Wow.
think it's like small gestures that would like
Mm.
change the world for me.
Mm.
And he had a good sense. He had a good sixth sense for that kind of stuff. He was really like, "Hey, come
Yeah.
on,
Mm-hmm.
let me rub your chest." So yeah, I really realized that it was not necessarily words. He sometimes would not even say a thing,
Mm.
but he just gave me this feeling of serenity.
Yeah, not being alone also.
Yeah,
Comfort.
yeah, and it was not many times, but the times I remember, I was just like, wow.
Mm.
If I have kids, if I have grandkids, that's what I would do because that was like the best role modeling I could have.
But you wouldn't do it to a friend.
I would do it to a friend as well, but I
Yeah.
think for kids and grandkids, it's just
It's
really,
easier.
like to a kid because that really like stick to me.
Yeah, it's a big hand. Like
Like
your
I
chest is the size of his hand. Yeah.
exactly like I didn't expect the tears would roll down my cheek, but
Mm.
it was something that just like really stayed with me.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that's the most beautiful thing.
I'm
And
happy you had that. That's nice.
yeah, and you did it now and then. Put your hand on my chest. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
you
think you
felt
also
happy.
feel how calm I turn in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the best reaction. So you need to
Just
revisit
no
the question.
words. No words, just a rub and a
Yeah,
hug.
yeah, and the forehead kiss, and
Mm.
I don't know, just being there. Sometimes it's just enough to have that energy. He
Mm.
always had like this super calming energy on me.
Mm.
Like being around him was just always a good place.
Mm.
So yeah.
Nice.
Yes. How do you deal with other sadness?
Mm. I think so I understand sadness, I guess. I think a lot of people show up with their sadness at my door as well. Don't know why. I guess and I'm pretty able to just sit with other people's sadness
Hmm.
and also extrapolate how many layers there are. Like you think you're sad about this, but actually underneath it there are a couple
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
different layers to your sadness. And I do get agitated at sometimes if somebody lingers on the same thing. But in general, I think like if you're sad and you're more inward, you have also people who are very lashing out when they're sad. They get angry at the world.
Hmm.
Those people, I think, I deal a little less patient with.
Hmm.
But in general, I think also it differs. If you know the person's sadness, it can be scary to sit with them. But if it's something you have, like, oh, something bad happened to me, but you've never had that experience,
Hmm.
then you're just sitting there, but you're not feeling it. You
Mm.
might have empathy, etc. But
Yeah.
if it really reaches in and touches you, then that's a different. Then sometimes I might have felt not strong enough to sit with it,
Mm.
or I think what I also usually say is what the other person is preventing themselves from saying, like, "Fuck, man, this is heavy.
Mm.
Like, this is really heavy." Today, my mom was sharing the story of how she experienced my accident
Mm.
again, and I've heard the story many times, and I'm like, uh, I've never shared my side of the story that often,
Mm.
you know.
I think she felt like she wanted to share it with me,
Definitely no.
which I found really
She shares
amazing.
it. It's the yearly tradition of, like, she also does it on my birthday. She tells how she gave birth to me, like how that led up. That's like a tradition. My mom, she's like reminiscing the thing.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I think if something's really heavy, the sadness. If you have, for instance, a shared sadness, like for instance, you both
Mm.
lose somebody. Everybody has their different process, but to be able to sit with somebody in their sadness, I think, if I have the energy, that's what I usually do. Uh, and eventually, if somebody's open to doing something about it, yeah, then I'm all up for that.
Mm. Yeah, it was really interesting to listen to your mom today because there was like literally no sadness in the way she told the story.
No,
I found that really
yeah,
impressive.
yeah,
Like the thing that stayed most with me was like now after 8 years she's kind of like really seeing that the sadness is dropping and the
mm,
happiness that you used to hear is taking
mm,
over. But still, the way she was telling the story was just like, I was like, wow, what a strong woman,
yeah.
if that's how she experienced it. But yeah,
Mm.
pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I think I also have that partly from my mom, to not really show your sadness. I think
Maybe.
she also definitely keeps it in her back pocket.
You have what you tell yourself.
No, I think you have your role models and you see how other people deal with their stuff, and also how other people react to your stuff. So, but I think in general, I've seen my mom also go through the cycle of having a lot of friends who only show up at her door when they're sad, and then filtering it into also, like, I am there for my friends when they have shitty moments,
Hmm.
but these are also the people that I share the happy moments with.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Mm.
So, what reaction do you give to somebody else's sadness?
It's a big range, I guess.
You know.
Yeah. I think the first kind of reaction is to rephrase it into something positive and
Mm,
pick the people up there because I'm, yeah, generally quite a happy person. But if I come from a place now, what I learned in my past, I kind of appreciate the sadness I had. So I think, yeah, sometimes I catch myself doing this and I'm like, no, actually, it's not good trying to pick someone up or lift someone up and try to
mm,
rephrase it into something positive because I also sat with it for weeks and months
mm,
and it did me good. It didn't do me good in the moment when I was sitting in it. That was horrible. But afterwards, it did because
mm,
it was like the bottom of the bottle and then getting up. So, yeah, I think I really try not to tap into the thing to be just like, okay, jolly and haha, let's do something good out of it, but to just really
mm.
allow the space is, I think, the best way to describe it.
That's
And
what
be
you do.
curious. No, that I would like try to rephrase it into positive, but
That's what you do.
yeah, but to like stop this immediate reaction from happening and be like, okay, let me allow the space. Let me be curious. Tell me about it.
Mm.
Because I think that, yeah, I think especially with you, that's why I'm learning it the most to see
Mm.
like it's difficult to get it out of you.
What?
Yeah, to understand more about it. And if I react jolly, then I kind of cut off the way,
Mm.
that little door that you open to share something.
Mm.
And I found that pretty, yeah, remarkable to see. Um, and yeah, doesn't work out always, but I'm learning.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty
And
sensitive to that.
yes, but in the best way. I really, yeah, I never realized that it could come across so strong in the wrong direction in some sense.
Mm.
I remember when you got the new wheelchair and we've been walking outside, and then you say, yeah, I'm happy, but at the same time, I'm sad.
Mm.
And then I was like, oh, babe,
Mm.
with like no bad intention at all.
Mm.
But you said afterwards, you're like, yeah, you basically cut me off
Mm.
what I wanted to say. And yeah, like the immediate tempo of my reaction was exactly this, to be like,
Mm.
hey, there's so much to be happy about, such a fancy new wheelchair.
Mm.
But that was not what you wanted to share.
Mm.
So yeah, you're a good teacher in many ways, in that one in particular. And I
Mm.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I think the biggest trick I have for when other people are sad is just to take them somewhere. Because I know when you're sad, you don't want to do anything. You just want to
Mm,
sit behind the window, look outside, and you're
mm,
like, "Meh." But if you like really drag, you sometimes you really have to drag somebody.
mm.
But then when you go somewhere, that can be a really changing moment. Like, hey, you felt bad.
Yeah, I finally understood it today.
What?
I don't know.
What?
A couple hours ago, it kind of clicked for me. I
What?
was like, it should just drag you out of the house. Need to
Yeah.
be more firm on things.
It's what's it called? Yeah, definitely. I've done it with my sister a couple of times, with friends as well, with my mom, I guess, also once or twice.
Mm,
Come, just let's. I have to show you something. What are you talking about? Like, I have to show you something.
yeah.
And then you just take a person out of their bubble.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we wanted to do something today, and then you've been like, "Oh, I don't feel like leaving the house." So I was like, "Well, it's your day." It's like, but then a couple hours earlier, I was like, "No, actually, no, 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 no. That's not the approach."
Hmm. Yeah, you live and you learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do I
Yeah.
have another one? Yeah, I do.
I don't know. I think I don't have any questions anymore. Before we go to the last question, if you like this episode, drop a like,
Please,
press a heart,
more hearts.
share. You can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify,
Wherever.
all the podcast places.
Yes.
Last questions about sadness.
Solitude or company. Kind of said a lot about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of solitude for me,
Yeah.
very selective company.
Mm.
I just have, in those moments, very little space for other people's errors.
Mm.
So I prefer not to take the risk.
Wow.
Yeah, not to take the risk. Yeah.
Mm. That's an amazing way to phrase it. Seriously. That was so on point.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just safer. It's safer. It's
Yeah.
definitely not smart to drown in the solitude. So that's what
Yeah.
I keep learning, to be in a sad space, being like, okay, I do not need to be around self-absorbed people. So the people maybe usually who, when I'm in a good space, I can bounce the ball with. Not right now. The people who get over concerned and start stuffing candy in your face, like, oh, life is sweet, don't be sad. don't need that right now. Who are the people that I can just show up with, just sit with, take a sigh, no questions asked. Hey man, nice to see you. Yeah, we'll get through this. C'est ça.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's a selective company, but mostly solitude.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the thickness of your of the skin, the skin, the layer of tolerating stuff always becomes thinner in those. Also, like when people react in a certain way that usually would just not get anywhere to me, but then I'm like, oh, that hurt. Or so yeah, it makes sense that
Yeah, I think you're
it's
just trying to recover or
yeah, grow your skin back.
yeah, be with the sadness or whatever it is. And I guess what also helps is responsibilities. Because if there's stuff like today you ask, hey, do you still want to do the podcast? I'm like, yeah, that's not a question. Like, I might not show up as jolly or I might not make all the stuff I would usually make. But if I would also remove that, then you fall into the abyss of what is the meaning of it all? Does it even matter if I exist or not?
Agree.
And then,
I would
so
not let you out of doing it, but
yeah, for me, these are like slightly non negotiables.
yeah, it was more a question to ask a question. But
I don't know then what is the purpose of the question, but that's okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that was today's episode. We shed some tears, had some
yeah,
smiles, reminisced Grandpa.
absolutely.
What was his name?
Yum.
Jan. Grandpa Jan, rubbing the chest and the head and kisses on the forehead.
Things you remember in life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely people.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
tuning in, listening to an episode about sadness, how you deal with it, how you like to be dealt with, who you look for when you're sad. I think the only thing that I'm curious about for you is what's hard about sharing your sadness with other people, because you answered the question with there's a select group of people that I share my sadness with, and why is that a very select group of people? Why isn't it everybody?
Because I think everyone, if you would ask most people, everyone would say I'm such a happy kid, and I kind of also feel more home with my sadness and solitude rather than sharing it with people. I guess mostly because I think I'm not fun to be around then.
Do you just want to maintain your happy image?
Not necessarily to maintain my happy image, but just to like, I don't know, does it spread in some sense?
You don't want to make other people sad.
Yeah. I think that's why Jacob was so surprised, because he like literally he just didn't know that side of me. And yeah, many people don't. And yeah, I had quite some dark periods the last year, and then what did come out of that? Some manifestation and tattoos on my body to remember that time, etc., etc., and some really dark pages in my journal.
Some paintings also.
Also, some pretty dark paintings with pretty
black.
dark names, absolutely. But yeah, I think it's really hard to overcome this threshold to be like, no, I'm not okay. I'm pretty miserable, to be honest.
To just anybody.
Yeah. I think, yeah, even because of work, it's like, working for an American company, especially, it's like, hey, how you doing? It's like a question of like, I'm great, how are you? No one would say like, actually, I'm pretty shitty, because people would be like, oh, oof, that's really, let's not deal with that. So you kind of like, yeah, get into this box of like, everything is super fine. I guess that's why.
Thanks for
Thank
elaborating. Yeah, let's figure that part out. See you next week. If you have suggestions for topics,
please
drop a line. Drop a line. Love change out.
Bye,
Bye
guys.
bye.